Greetings from the Long Island Sound podcast. Welcome to the show. Please rate, review, and comment on the show. And call our listener line and leave a message for our guests. Dial 631-800-3579. All right, enjoy the show. Welcome to the Long Island Sound podcast, where we explore the muse and the music, from the North Shore to the South Shore, from New York City to the Hamptons, navigating the wellspring of original music from singer-songwriters and musicians from Long Island, New York. Hi, I'm Steve Yusko from GigDestiny.com. Stay tuned as we explore the Long Island Sound. In today's episode, we meet Mark Newman. This ace stringman hit the big stage with Sam the Sham when he was 23. But what really amazed me was his original songs and backstory. I discovered a warm, familiar voice and music that resonated in my wheelhouse. Have a listen to One More Song About a Highway, then come join the conversation.
I lost my job at the factory, though I was not to blame. One day they locked the doors and walked away. I can't support my family, been way hard to survive. So I'm hauling something for someone as I drive and drive and drive. It's one more song about a highway, one more story from the road, one more coffee and another state line with miles and miles to go. CIA wouldn't have me. The local crime boss said you're out of luck. So I'm hours and miles away from home, behind the wheel of this truck. I've carried goods and livestock over roads covered with ice. I've carried people across the border searching for a new life. It's one more song about a highway, one more story from the road, one more coffee and 1,000 headlights with miles and miles to go. Your picture's on my dashboard, right next to the kids. I miss you all more than you could know. This ain't no way to live. It's one more song about a highway, one more story from the road, one more coffee and another state line, miles and miles to go. One more song about a highway, one more story from the road,
As a kid growing up on Long Island, my dad would chastise us for changing the station from station to station on the car radio to find music we wanted to hear. As I navigate the musical waters of the Long Island Sound, more often than not, I'm blessed to find some great music well up in my wheelhouse. And that's exactly how I felt as I experienced Mark Newman's music. Mark has been around the world, and yet he has a voice that seems to be familiar like a comforting old friend. He's both a singer, songwriter, and ace stringman, sharing the stage with such notables as soul legend Sam Moore of Sam and Dave, John Oates of Hall & Oates, Jim McCarty of the Yardbirds, and the late Will DeVille of Mink DeVille, Bobby Whitlock of Derek and the Dominoes, and Sam the Sham. As luck would have it, I met Mark during an event in Riverhead featuring Matt Marshak, an earlier guest. And man, what a great chance for my wife and I to hear some really awesome tunes and Stringman who took us along for the ride. There's so much more to unpack here. Mark Newman, welcome to the Long Island Sound. Good to have you, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I tell you, it's funny. I've been really fortunate to meet some really great guys. And this is all bullshit aside. I've been listening to your songs for 3 days. And when I said, I do a little bit of homework, but it was easy because it's in my wheelhouse. It's exactly the type of music I love. So I'm excited about this interview. It just,
thanks.
I love what you do. You're a blues man and virtuoso in a lot of different things, and the slide guitar. And I can reminisce about the different sounds, but you're very unique in what you do. So
thank you.
Yeah. So we heard one of your songs in the beginning of the podcast. We'll hear two more. I love the song Tulsa. I thought it was great. It really kind of welled up a lot of images to me about current events, unfortunately or fortunately. But
true.
So you grew up in the Bronx, right?
Yeah, I was born in the Bronx, and then my family moved out to Massapequa in the 50s. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So you're a transplant, and
yeah.
It amazes me all the different people that settle on Long Island and really get the music out there. When did you first pick up the instrument? When did you think, what were your influences to say, hey, I think I can do this?
I don't know. I think it was just watching people on TV. My parents constantly had the radio on. There was always music in the house. And my father would sit down at the piano and play the same thing that everybody else's father played, if they couldn't play. That one with the knuckles.
Exactly.
And Heart and Soul was a big one. So I started fooling around with the piano, but then I wanted to be a guitar player. It just, I had a ukulele when I was a little kid, and and then I started taking guitar lessons. I never looked back.
So at what age? What age did you pick up the guitar?
Sometime between 8 and 9.
Really? Wow, that's great.
I took breaks. I mean, when I was in high school, I was in bands. When I wasn't playing on a regular basis, the guitar would sit there.
Mm-hmm.
But, once I knew we were out gigging, I'd be practicing, not doing my homework, things like that.
Right. So, yeah, what's interesting is the events, you got a dance or whatever's coming up, and you've got to woodshed it, so to speak, to bring your craft up to speed, And I know there's a lot of guys and gals who listen who are probably looking at a guitar in the corner of their room that has a lot of dust and needs the strings changed and what have you, because I went through the same thing. It was too damn hard in the beginning for me. And what helped me, maybe helps a lot of people, and I began later in life, was seeing how to do chord structures and stuff like that, and go for that. So what was your first band? I mean, so now you're in high school. I guess you're getting pretty good at it. So you stuck to guitar in high school, and
yeah, I had a band with a few friends from another school district, and trying to remember the name of that band. I think it was called the Starlights. And interestingly enough, Joey D and the Starlighters were way before that. And James, if you watch the James Brown movie, Get On Up, they had a similar name, the Starlights, and then they go and sit in with Little Richard Takes a Break in the movie.
Okay.
And they're about to announce their names, and James Brown just jumps to the mic and said, "We're the Famous Flames." So they were no longer the Starlights.
just like that.
I think I have it right. I'm not, don't don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Well, I got to definitely look that movie up because
It's great.
I would assume, I was looking at your bio and where you've been and the different real celebrities in the industry that you played with. I'm thinking, all right, this is a Brooklyn, Manhattan guy, and he's right in the center of it. But you went from the Bronx to Massapequa.
But I did spend a lot of time. I lived in L.A. for 5 years, and when I came back to New York, I spent most of my time in Manhattan playing clubs.
Okay, so that was really where that's really where you grew your craft, was in the center of the world, Manhattan.
Yeah, we'd be playing like 6 times a month on Bleecker Street, Kenny's Castaways, and the Bitter End. Bitter End is still there. It's still my favorite place to play.
Yeah, what's for those who don't know, the Bitter End, very famous place. It's a very narrow place. If I recall right, you have a very long stage on one side of the wall, brick wall, right? And it's sort of in the basement, right? As you go down the steps.
No, actually, it's straight in.
It's ground level. See, I must have been drinking too much when I went there.
There are other clubs like that, though.
Yeah, right around there. But it's a great place, and a lot of people. I don't even know how they approach it now. Do people like pay to play there, or
No, you play for the door, basically.
Basically, play for the door. What you can drag in.
Yeah.
So, what was the big leap for you to play with the people that you played with? I mean, how did that come about? And let me just give a prerequisite to that. There's thousands of musicians who never get a break to really go out there, and I'm always interested in what do you think was what gave you the opportunity and the chance to do it?
When I lived in L.A., I was working with 2 guys that were in the band Sweetwater, and they were the only electric band that played Woodstock on the first night.
Okay. Oh, wow.
They were, I don't know, probably about 10 years older than me. And they were very kind to take me into, I played with the keyboard player and the bass player. They were the, 2 of the original guys. I'm still friends with them to this day.
Oh, nice.
A lot of people used this guy, Mutt Cohen, to administer their publishing. So my friend, had publishing things to deal with, from when he was at Sweetwater, and he ran into Sam the Sham at the bank. They knew each other, and Sam said, in his southern drawl, he said, "Yeah, man, I'm looking for a slide guitar player." So my friend calls me up and says, "Hey, Sam the Sham's looking for a slide guitar player. You play slide, right?" And I went, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm.
So I really didn't expect to hear anything, and I get a call a couple of weeks later, and this guy says, "Hey, is this Mark? This is Sam the Sham." And I'm going, "Fred, cut it out, man. It's not funny."
Yeah, quit BSing me here, right?
Yeah, it was him. He invited me over to his place. We sat around his kitchen table playing guitar till about 2 a.m, and then he said, "Hey, you want to do a gig with me tomorrow?"
The next day? Wow.
The next day. So I knew Wooly Bully, so I couldn't miss. I knew Little Red Riding Hood, and the rest of it was like a blues gig.
Oh, wow. Now, how old are you when you got this break?
23 or 4.
Okay, young man, really.
Yeah.
And golden opportunity. So he takes you for this test drive till 2 a.m, and I would assume not only to test your chops, but test your endurance till 2 a.m.
Not only that, but in between playing, he had a mortar and pestle, and he was grinding chili peppers to make hot sauce.
Oh my God! Where's he from? Was he from like Louisiana or something like that? Or?
Well, he came up in Louisiana, but he's originally from Irving, Texas.
Okay.
That's in between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually part of Dallas, and it's not far from the airport. He grew up in Dallas, and he started playing in Dallas, and he's the only guy that I know personally that can say this. He played Jack Ruby's nightclub in the 60s.
Oh, wow.
That's what I said.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
I know. And then he wound up going to Louisiana and doing a bunch of gigs there. And then they got a record deal with a smaller label out of Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And he moved to Memphis, and Rufus Thomas really helped him out. the guy that did Walking the Dog.
Okay.
He helped them get airplay. He was a DJ for a while.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then MGM picked up the contract or bought the contract from whoever had it originally, and he had quite a long career. I mean, even after he wasn't in the mainstream, he was touring the world.
Really? So
Yeah.
at that point, when you do the gig with them the next day, are you in the band? Was it a chance meeting, or like, what was your relationship? I guess is my point.
We hit it up pretty well. I wound up being in his band from that point on.
Wow. So you hit the world circuit, or was it?
Well, mostly in the States, mostly on the West Coast. We'd play in New York once in a while. Played Memphis. I didn't go out of the country with him until sometime in the 90s, actually, because he moved from L.A. back to Memphis. I stayed in touch with him, and he called me and asked me if I wanted to do a gig in Antwerp, in Belgium.
Really?
Yeah. So I did
Okay.
a couple of gigs there, a couple of gigs in Berlin with him. That was late 90s, and then in 2000, I played a few gigs in Europe with him.
How did the Belgian people you take him? I mean, was he part of an
Well-
ensemble, or just like they fell in love with them, or how was it?
Well, they had a backup band for everybody, and so somewhere halfway during the show, there were a lot of acts on the bill. Sam says, "I know not all you can understand me because you all speak French." Now, apparently that's a sore point because he got booed. Most of the people there speak English, and the ones that don't in that part of the country, they speak Flemish.
Okay.
So it's only around the French border that they speak French.
Boy, how to lose a crowd when you don't know who you're singing to, right?
I wanted to hide behind the amp.
Start playing quick, right?
Yep.
Hey, let's do this. I just want to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I really want to ask you. I think a lot of the up and coming artists want to know, what did you learn from Sam and your early tours out around the world? Like, what'd you pick up? So why don't we take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Mark Newman. Stick with us. Hi, Steve Yusko from Gig Destiny here. Well, as you're probably listening to this podcast, you're probably thinking about that musician who would make a fantastic guest here on the Long Island Sound. Well, we'd like to hear their story. We'd like to hear their music. So have them reach out to us at gigdestiny.com, and we'll explore their craft. Now, back to our podcast. Hey, everybody. We're back with Mark Newman. And I said this before, I'm going to say it again. His music is exactly in my wheelhouse. I love the slide guitar. I love the blues. I love everything about your music. And I don't say that to every musician, but it just, I'm listening and I'm thinking like Tedeschi Trucks. Okay, this is like, oh man, I like this. This, it was just really kind of struck me, and it was cool to discover this for myself, And what I know I'm a jabbermouth here, but what I like about podcasts is I'm getting to discover guys that are my own neighbors on Long Island who have phenomenal music, and it gets hidden in Spotify and everything else. Unless you get your chance to see you guys out live, which you do play live a lot. So we'll talk about that. But one question I have for you is, Sure. What did you learn early in your career? You get this great opportunity with Sam the Sham. What were your takeaways? What kind of set you on a good course or a bad course? I don't know.
Well, Sam used to turn around, again, I was either 23 or 24, and I had just moved to LA, and you go through that thing when you're young about trying to play as fast as you can. Mm-hmm. And he'd yell at me, he'd go, "Calm down," like
he was very direct.
Yeah. And he would send me home with blues records like Jimmy Reed, or and he'd say, "Man, go home and listen to this." He was very nice about it, but he, I got the gig because I could play slide. But when again, I'd be playing regular guitar also, trying to get every every lick I could in there, and it's not what it's about.
Yeah. Sometimes it's about the spaces between the notes that make them dwell longer, you know.
And it's about paying attention to what the singer's doing.
Right. So you don't overshadow, you complement it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing that amazed me. So I had met you. Matt Marshak introduced me out in Riverhead, and lo and behold, I didn't know who you were, and you know he calls you out of the audience, and you're like the third guitar player in the trio that was up there, and you fit like a glove, man. It's just kind of it was kind of neat, you know.
To be fair, I've played with Chris and Matt and Peter Kalo quite a few times, so it wasn't very hard.
Okay, so I wasn't just trying to figure everything out.
No,
you know, as you went, yeah. But it was a great night. It was really, and for those who are listening, look up the Matt Marshak episode. It was a fun episode. So
I love Matt. They're great. He's a great guy.
Yeah. So all right. So now so let's bridge off of. I want to talk about the song that I introduced before we even started talking together, and it's called "One More Song About a Highway." Can you just tell me how that came about? Because I'm always curious how the muse strikes you. Do you collaborate? Are you the sole lyricist and music writer? You know, how do you approach it?
Usually that's the case. You know, it's just with that I started with the opening riff, and then just built it from there. And one of my friends, actually the guy that owns my label, said to me, "Man, that sounds like a great driving song." And I thought about it, and then I thought about all these guys that are truckers and what makes them go that kind of life. And a lot of them just couldn't find work. I'm sure that's not some people like that lifestyle, but there are people who take gigs like that they can't get work in their hometown. Right. So I just created this story about a guy who gets laid off and he can't find work. I even make a joke in the second verse about the CIA wouldn't have me. The local crime boss said, "You're out of luck." And, you know, the guy goes to both extremes, trying to, you know, work within the law and then outside the law. And
right.
He winds up really missing his family because he's on the road for like, you know, weeks.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. You know, certainly in my career, or early in my career, and in my marriage, you know, I traveled 75% of the time, and you know, one of the instincts is you come home and the master bedroom is not as familiar as the Hampton Inn room, you know, that you're in, you know, 3 or 4 nights a week, you know, and you know, and one of the things you long, at least for me, and I'm not to get too philosophical, but you long for a community. And, you know, when you're out on your own, you know, you find community at the truck stop, you find it wherever. But I felt this disconnection from my hometown. And then later in life, I was you know, and that's what I look for is community. And that's what I think it probably is with a band when you're on the road. You know, it's a family, you know, and it's a community, you know.
It is. It is. When I was with Willie DeVille, we toured like 6 weeks at a time in Europe. So, that's who you're hanging out with all the time. Yeah.
If for good or for bad, right? You know, you certainly
no, it was usually pretty good.
Yeah. How did you go from Sam the Sham to Mink DeVille?
Well, there was also stuff in between. I wound up playing with, I wound up getting the gig with Sam Moore.
Wow.
And I knew all that music because I played all of it when I was a kid. So I was with him for 10 years.
Wow.
And the bass player, who was the music director, was in a band that had a jam every Monday night, and I sat in, and he took my phone number, and then like 2 years later, called me and asked me if I wanted to do the gig.
Just out of the blue like that?
Well, whoever had the gig couldn't make it, and he asked me to sub on the gig. And through some course of events, I wound up having the gig.
Oh, that's great. Right.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then in between that, I wound up working with Willie DeVille and John Oates.
Now, how did the John Oates, when he so I know Hall and Oates, so John Oates kind of went off on his own for a period of time, or does he always have his own stuff for a while?
Well, I Hall & Oates wanted to end on a good note. They were like at the top of the game,
Yeah.
and they both decided to go try solo endeavors. And the thing is, like, people want to see Hall & Oates, so Oates would play smaller venues, and Daryl had that show, Daryl's House, which was great. So I worked with Oates on his solo stuff, and he was really wanting to be more of an Americana artist. So he was trying, again, he was looking for a slide player, and my friend was the drummer in his band, and my friend said, hey, I know somebody. Jerry Douglas played on his solo stuff, and Jerry Douglas isn't going to go on tour when he's making a good living in the studio in Nashville.
Right.
Although he does tour a little bit. So.
No, interesting.
Mostly for his own stuff.
Yeah. So I would imagine, Hall & Oates together, they were so impactful with the Philly sound and everything like that, and just great stuff to listen to. But then when you break up that marriage, how does the audience react to it? I guess is, they're screaming out. I could just imagine him screaming out Hall & Oates songs where he's like, hey, I want to do my own stuff.
Well, we did John's stuff, John Oates. We did his stuff, but he would have to play Hall & Oates tunes, but they wouldn't be exactly like the Hall & Oates arrangements. Right.
And you know what? That I like that too, because it
Me too.
when I go to see a live concert and it sounds exactly like the album. To be frank, I'm kind of disappointed. I really want that ebb and flow and the tide back and forth between the audience and the energy that's happening, because it says, you know what, you're playing for me. I'm pretty selfish when it comes to that, and that's what I think when you go to an audience and you get the feedback from it. I can only imagine. I'm the hopeful guy in the audience, not on stage. Yes.
Yeah.
Which my wife is very happy about. My wife is actually freaking out because I'm actually in front of a microphone, which is, I think, her nightmare. So I want to talk about the next song, From Me to You, how that was developed, and then we'll take a break and listen to it, have the audience check it out.
Okay. I didn't write that song. Now, the label I'm signed to, the distribution company, they're in Nashville. And Janice Ian, who wrote that song, it was on her 1975 album called Between the Lines. Okay. Anyway, the distributor called me and asked me if I would cover this song that Janice Ian had just written. And she was trying to get as many people as she could to cover this song. It was called Better Times Will Come.
Okay.
And she has a Facebook page, the Better Times Project. So a lot of people covered the song. And anyway, then I remembered hearing this song on that old album, From Me to You, and I decided to cover that as well.
Wow, that's interesting. It's an interesting way to approach it as far as getting other artists to cover. You want them to cover your stuff.
Sure.
And I'm curious. I'll have to ask other musicians how they feel about letting other people cover their music.
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, get it out there, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's
a lot of people. The group Badfinger, they wrote. I think Pete Ham wrote "I Can't Live."
Oh yeah, yeah. Can't live
Harry
without
Nilsson.
you.
Harry Nilsson had the hit with it. So, there's a lot of situations like that.
Yeah, where it's, right timing, right person, right approach to it. Hey, the song lives on in a lot of different voices. And you know what? That's most musicians that I speak to are very collaborative and freewheeling and share the stage, and it's not just me on the limelight. There are a few that are not like that, and that's just life, that gets in the way with that. But I can just tell you with this podcast, which is great, it leads me to 3 to 5 people, interesting people. Say, oh man, if you think you enjoyed this, you got to talk to this guy or this gal and stuff like that.
Sure.
And it's a nice community. I'm just kind of a big fan. I'm a fan. Just listen to it. So why don't we do this? Let's take a listen to From Me to You, and we'll be right back after the song.
grace to say you'll finally decide, and you haven't got the strength to stay and fight. Those people who surround you only want to see you weak enough to crawl. They'll lie for you, decide for you, and buy up all your rights and all your wrongs. And they'll try to stop your singing in the middle of your song. For they do not want you free, and they will not make you strong, but only drag you down in the hole they're coming from. They say you are foolish for wanting the sun. They say you are selfish for learning to run. They tell you that the darkness is a blessing in disguise. Boy, you never have to notice if you're sighted or you're blind, and they'll do the best to keep you from the light. You're more than beginning, you're learning to fly. It feels like you're falling, but it passes in time. I hate to see a friend go down in flames without a song, so I'm waiting by the doorway, but I will not linger long. I'm leaving by night, I'm leaving alone. I'm leaving you lie, when you're waking I'll be gone. I would not beg for me, as I could not beg for you, but I like to be the one to see you through.
Hey, we're back, everybody, and that was really great song. I really appreciate you bringing that to the table for us. So,
Oh, thanks.
yeah. So tell us, what are you doing nowadays, Mark? You know, what do you got planned? I mean, you're still recording. I know you said you're doing some recording today, and you know, what's coming up in the next few months with you?
I'm almost done with my new CD. Almost. I'm touring with a band called the Hitmen, which is a bunch of guys that are all sidemen for famous people.
Okay.
Either they are now or they have been. And in fact, I have to go to Wisconsin tomorrow.
Oh my God.
I know.
It's still winter there. What the heck's the matter with you?
I know. Well, you know, it's like they had. I entered a contest. It was like first prize was a week in Wisconsin. Second prize was 2 weeks. So no, I'm doing it. I've been playing with all these guys. They're all friends of mine, and they asked me to, they asked me to join the band.
That's great.
Because I had played with a few famous people, and that's pretty much a prerequisite for being in the band. And you have to be able to play, of course. So.
Right. Yeah, you can't forget what you learned, right?
Right.
And what we'll do, just for our audience, information on Mark, and we have his website and the Hitman. Anything we talk about, you can find it in the chapter marks, and no pun intended. To get links to all the different information that we're talking about, and to Mark's music as well. Because I'm telling you, if you're like me and you discover it, you're going to get a lot more fans out of this, because just really kind of great stuff.
Well, you can find it it's on all the usual places, Spotify. Like if you remember one of those things. In fact, my last CD was called Empirical Truth, and I had no idea that you could buy the CD on Amazon. I had no clue.
Really?
I thought I signed just a digital distribution deal, with this company, WBA Records, out of
Okay.
Nashville. So I was selling CDs at gigs, but you can actually get the physical CD on Amazon. Just type in my name and Empirical Truth, and they'll send you the physical CD. But all this music, and that's like my fourth CD. It's all on the usual sites. Spotify, you can find it all on iTunes. And,
Right. We'll have links for all that. I mean, I was in my kitchen and Debbie was preparing dinner and I said, "You got to hear this song." And I'm like, "Hey Google, I can't talk because Google's in my room now. Play the song we're going to talk about." And then and I played it, and she's like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool. How do you find people like this?" Sure. Playing on Apple. That's Google. Hey Google, stop. Oh my God, too many people listening. No, not the audience. I'm talking about my electronics in the room here.
Yeah, when my electronics talk back to me, that's when I leave the room.
I know, right? Yeah, you're still alive. When your electronics are talking to you, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I just had to unplug him or her or whatever it is. So Wisconsin, how long will you be in Wisconsin? Just for a couple of days? And
No, I leave tomorrow. I'll be back Sunday. The gig is on Saturday.
Nice.
So
nice.
then when I get back, I'm playing the Montauk Music Festival.
Oh, great.
I'll be on the main stage on May 21st at like 4:30, I think.
Okay.
With my band. I'll be doing some solo gigs around there. That's just a lot of fun.
Oh, Montauk is great. And
Yeah.
I'm going to try to, actually, it's my wife's birthday weekend. That might be a good, if I can find a place to stay. I love Montauk. It's just,
Me too.
It's just so unique. It's a drinking village with a fishing problem, as they say.
Well, I used to play the Memory Motel all the time, and they'd be cleaning up eyeballs and teeth at the end of the night because you had all the fishermen coming in, and then you had a bunch of students from Ireland that were working in Montauk
Right.
over the summer, and then just the locals, and there'd be a fight every time we play there.
Yeah, there's another place. I don't know if you've been to Liar's Saloon in Montauk.
No,
it's
I'm
another
not.
it's another, as my father-in-law used to say, another potential to be a bucket of blood. So watch yourself.
Yeah.
That's where they have the band behind the chicken wire. So they can't break the bottles on their instruments.
Yeah, I've done some of those too.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm definitely going to have you back because we've got more stories to explore with you, and it's pretty fascinating. Who you've played with. I want to talk. Let's talk about. It's really important. This last song that you brought to the table. Tell us about Tulsa and how that came about and
Well,
the anniversary that's coming up.
I read an article about the Tulsa Massacre a few years ago, and we never learned about that in school. So the Tulsa Massacre started with somebody from the Greenwood section of Tulsa, which was not the white section of town, gets in an elevator with a young girl, and nobody knows if they knew each other, but she
I
screamed.
remember the story. Yeah.
And things just escalated, and they wound up deputizing all these people and going into the black neighborhood.
Yeah, I know the story.
I'm supposed to say African American, but Smokey Robinson said it's okay to say black, so I'm
Okay,
saying
that
black.
works.
If it's okay with him, it's okay with me. So, and they destroyed the Greenwood section, killing a lot of people. Not only did they go in with firearms, but they bombed. From planes.
Wow.
They were dropping bombs from planes overhead, and that area never came back.
Right.
And that was known as the Black Wall Street because you had all
That's
these
right.
all these veterans that came back from World War I, and it was a thriving community, and that didn't sit well with the white community either. And
They were in competition. Yeah.
right. So anyway, that was I think Memorial Day weekend 100 years ago. From 101
Yeah,
years
it's
ago.
interesting when, a lot of times when you listen to music that speaks to history. And when I was kind of struck by the song, because I was thinking about Ukraine at the same time that I was thinking about Tulsa,
Yeah.
because there was so many parallels of, hey, we got to get the hell out of here type of thing. And I thought about, refugees and what have you. So unfortunately, history repeats itself, and we have to be reminded to keep spreading the love and reducing the hate, get rid of the hate. So anyway, on that note, let's take a listen to Tulsa, and we'll be right back.
I was heading out a big deal 4
Hey, everybody, we are back, and that is, I must have listened, I'm not kidding, I listened to this song probably 10 times in the past 3 days getting prepped for this this episode, and it's a very striking song, and thanks for sharing it with us, man. It's great.
Thanks for
Great
listening.
song. So I'm curious about your recording process. You said you did some things at home, but, tell the gang out there, how you approach things,
I usually go in the studio with my drummer, Sean Murray, and lay things down, guitar and drums, and then build it from there. I usually go to excuse me, Tiki Recording in Glen Cove.
Okay.
Fred Guarino is the engineer, and I've been working with him forever.
Nice.
And he's great.
You got to find somebody with great ears who can point things out to you that you may not catch, right?
And he does.
And he's not shy about it. I can tell by your smile.
Not at all. Not at all.
So what other events, what other gigs you got? You're not going to be stuck in Wisconsin. You're going to bring me back some cheese. You got to bring back some cheese because I got to get something out of this. And what's up next?
Let's see. So I'm playing the Montauk Music Festival in June. I'm playing at Still Partners in Seacliff on June 17th. And I love playing Still Partners because it's one of the few venues on Long Island that has original bands there, like on a weekend.
Is that like right on the Main Street in Seacliff?
Yeah, it's on Seacliff Avenue.
Okay.
And it's a great place. The food is great, and it's just a fun place to play. And after that, I'm playing at Great South Bay on the Saturday, playing with a group called Sailing Shoes. It's a Little Feat tribute band. That's probably my favorite band.
Great band, still playing around, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a tribute band. That's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that Great South Bay event. I mean, it really looks like it's going to be very diverse. Tedeschi Trucks, I think, is one of the main liners.
That's right.
That's going to be playing there, and I'm just amazed by that band. Every day, husband and wife, and just the big band. If you don't know them, check them out. Tedeschi Trucks, great, phenomenal slide guitar player. Extraordinaire, right?
Yeah, he's great.
Mark, I really want to thank you for your time. I really want to have you back because
I'd love to.
You got to have like 10,000 more stories, and especially after what's coming up, you're going to have to come back and tell me what happened here on Long Island with the different shows and stuff. And I'd love to have you back. And I end my podcast a lot this way. And a good friend told me, he goes, we can account for what we have in our bank accounts or what we own. We can never account for what time we have left on this earth. So when you give me an hour of your time, it's very valuable, and I appreciate it, brother.
I'd love to do it again.
All right, man. So until next time, check out Mark Newman, and peace, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment, and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace. Thanks so much for listening. Please rate, review, and comment on the show. We really love to hear from you. And call our listener line at 631-800-3579. Again, thanks so much. Be well.